In this video, we're going to introduce the Excel add-in called PowerPivot. In this course, we've learned to figure data in different kinds of databases, and databases are really good at storing data, but it's not a very great tool when it comes to analyzing it. For this purpose, Microsoft Excel is an obvious choice. It contains a broad range of built-in applications to handle data, it's very user-friendly and intuitive, it has a lot of graph and design opportunities to present data, and lastly, it is the most common tool in the world, which is a really important parameter if you have to share your data with others. To show how Excel can be used to illustrate and dig into data, I made this simple dashboard based on the data from the Northwind database. It has been constructed by using the Excel built-in application called pivot tables and slices. These are called pivot tables and these are pivot graphs. And out here we have some slices that can be used to filter the data. For example, I click on Denmark, then the data will immediately filter the tables and only show the data from customers in Denmark. As you can see, the other slicer has now highlighted the customers belonging to the selected country. So if I click on Waffe, then I can dig into the data at a customer level. I imagine that a manager could use this information to analyze the tendencies. We see down here that Waffe has not ordered any meat products since October, and if we wanted to know why, then maybe we could ask Nancy, since she had been handled most of the orders from this customer. I hope you get the idea that Excel is a very handy tool when it comes to present and analyze data. This dashboard can be built in any ordinary Excel sheet using the built-in applications. But when it comes to handle a big amount of data, Excel has some limitations. For one thing, if we open a new tab and go down to the very bottom, then we can see here that there is a limit of just above 1 million rows. This is not something that will expand if we fill it all with data. This is the limit. 1 million rows is plenty if you're using Excel to contain the house budget. But if you're dealing with data from all citizens of Denmark, then 1 million rows simply won't do. And if you do fill up all the 1 million rows in a sheet, then you will get a very big Excel file that takes up a lot of space on your computer and it will be very slow to handle. So what could we do to combine the excellent data storage of an SQL database with the analytical tools of Microsoft Excel? The answer is to use the Excel add-in called PowerPivot. When downloading PowerPivot, it will create an extra tab in the header up here called PowerPivot. From here, you can open the PowerPivot window. What PowerPivot can do is it allows you to import data directly from an SQL server or a series of other sources. The limit of rows in each tab is now 2 billion instead of just 1 million. It stores the data more efficiently than a regular Excel file would do, and thereby it takes up less space on your computer and is easier to handle. And then lastly, it contains some excellent relational applications that are very straightforward to use. So what is going to happen now is that I will close this PowerPivot window, and then I will open a new Excel file and show you how to import data in the PowerPivot window from external sources, and then how to use the data from within the Excel spreadsheet itself. Now, this is an Excel spreadsheet with no data in the PowerPivot window. So when I open the window, it will look all gray. And this is simply because it does not contain any data yet. To import some data, we click up here at Get External Data and choose from other sources. We now have a broad range of source types to choose between, and as you can see, the very first option is to import data from an SQL server. If you choose this by clicking Next, then you will get this view. And once you have entered the name of the server in the window up here, a drop-down menu will appear down here with a list of all the databases available on the server. Once you have chosen the database, you click Next, and then you get to choose exactly which table to import. Unfortunately, my computer is not linked to any SQL servers, so I will go back. And instead, I am going to import data from another Excel file. So before moving on, I will just show you the source file. This is a file containing information from the Northwind database that you should be familiar with already. As you can see, each of the tabs down here contain a table from the database. Like here we have the categories table, we have the customers tables, and so on. Please notice that the first row in each of the tables contains the headers from the table columns. Now that you have seen the data source, I will just close the file, otherwise we will not be able to import the data. To import the data from another Excel sheet is pretty straightforward. First, you choose the path for the source file, and then before moving on, it is very important to checkmark this little window stating that the first rows in the source file should be used as column headers. Now we click Next, and we get to choose which tables to import. I'm going to choose categories, customers, employees, order details, orders, and products. We then click Finish, and then the data import will take place. You note that all the tables have been imported with success, so we close the window. And voila! Now the tables appear in the PowerPivot window. The next step is to connect the data by using the very clever relational application of PowerPivot. Down here in the right corner, we can switch between views. As default, the PowerPivot window is set to grid view, but now we're going to switch to the diagram view. In the diagram view, we get an overview of all the different tables, with only the column headers visible and not the entire dataset. You can drag the tables around as you wish, so I will just move these last one, so we get to see all the tables at once. And now we're going to create relations between the different tables. When working in a regular SQL database, you have to state which columns to join each time you extract some data combined from several tables. But in PowerPivot, you only have to state the relations once, and then PowerPivot will remember which columns to join. In the categories table up here, we have a column called category ID, which is the same one as the category ID down here in the products table. To connect the two columns, we simply click on either one of them and then drag the mouse down to the other one and drop it. And now the columns are related. If we move the mouse over the line, the related column headers will be highlighted. In the same way, we combine the product table with the order details table, the order details table with the orders table, the orders table with the customers table, and the orders table with the employee table. So now all the tables are related, and we go back to the grid view. In each of the tables we can add an extra column if we like, and calculate the values using DAX functions, which are very similar to the regular Excel functions. For example, in the order details table, we could add a column called sales. We can then calculate the sales as the quantity sold times the unit price times the discount. Once we press enter, the DAX function will automatically be applied to all rows in the given column. We can also take advantage of the relations and use information from the related tables. So, for example, we could also add a column called year, and then calculate the year from the related date given in the orders table. So to do this, we write year as we would normally do, but then as input we choose a related column. To do this, we write related of orders, and then the list of possible columns appears. We choose the order date, make the end parentheses, and press enter. This is one of the very great applications of PowerPivot, that you can actually use information from across the tables once you have related them. So now we have learned to import data, relate the different tables, and add new columns. If you wanted to, you could import additional data from other sources as well and combine it in the same way. But for now, we have all the data and relations that we need, so we're ready to extract the data to the body of the Excel file. When closing the PowerPivot window, you don't have to save anything. This will be done automatically, so I just click the X button. As you can see, the Excel spreadsheet looks like nothing has happened. All the data we have imported are stored in the PowerPivot window and will not be shown until we drag some information out of it. To extract the PowerPivot data, we have to use the Excel tool called Pivot Tables. You can add some pivot tables directly from the PowerPivot tab by choosing one of the options in the pivot table button. This will create some pivot tables with the PowerPivot data as the source. You could also do it the normal way by choosing the Insert tab and then insert a pivot table or a pivot chart. Now this menu appears and you have to choose to use an external data source. When you click Choose Connection, the PowerPivot data is the default option, so we click Open. Then it asks me if I want to insert the pivot table in the cell that is currently active, and this is fine by me, so I click OK. And now I have created a pivot table and a corresponding pivot chart. I will not go into detail with how pivot tables work. If you're not familiar with pivot tables already, I have linked to some tutorials in the video description. The excellent thing about building a pivot table on data from PowerPivot is that you can choose data from across any of the PowerPivot tables, and it will automatically connect the data using the created relations. For example, we can choose the cell from the order details table as the value, and then we could show it for each of the employees given in the employee table. If we wanted to, we could easily change the chart type to any other type, a pie chart or whatever, but for now I think the column table works just fine. To get a view of only some specific data, we could add a report filter, but if we want to make it more dynamic, we can add a slicer instead. For example, we could choose a country from the customers table and the year from the order details table. So now you can mark any of the countries you wish to get the view's data from and choose a year as well. If you're not already familiar with the Excel pivot table application, I hope that you can see the opportunities in it. It gives a great way to build some good looking reports with a dynamic view to analyze the data as needed. As the last thing in this video, I have to show you how to update the data. For this purpose, I will go back to my original dashboard. When I first imported the data for this dashboard, the month of May was not completed. This makes the graph seem a bit weird, like the sales suddenly decreased. Therefore, I have deleted the data from May in the Northprint source file, so once I update the data, hopefully this column will be removed. To update the data, I open the PowerPivot window. Then if I click refresh, it will update the data in the sheet that is currently active, in this case the product table. But I can also click the drop down menu and choose refresh all. This will update the data in all my tables, and as you can see, the data was updated successfully, so we close this window. And then we close the PowerPivot window as well. As you can see, May is still visible in the graph. I need to also update the pivot table. I do this by right-clicking on any of the tables and choose refresh. Now May has been removed, so the data has been updated as intended. This was all I had to show you. There were plenty of more details and design tricks, but I feel like this is quite enough for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. I don't expect you to remember everything, but if you find the content useful, please feel free to explore the other videos I have linked to in the video description. In here you can also find a link to downloading the PowerPivot add-in.